What's up, Infected? Welcome to the Quarantine. This is Kickstart Your Week. Now, if you're not familiar with what this segment is, this is my weekly show that I put out that covers the previous week in Kickstarter, games that I thought looked interesting. Now, there's no hard, fast, guidelines or rules. It's really games that I thought looked interesting that I wanted to let you guys know about, and maybe you consider checking them out or maybe even backing the project. Now, with so many Kickstarters out there and so little time, it's not feasible or even possible for me to cover all of the Kickstarters every week, so I narrow it down to no more than 10. And like I said, there's no hard, fast rules. It's just kind of what caught my eye. I watched the video, kind of get at least a decent idea of, yeah, this is kind of cool, or no, whatever. And lastly, if you like this show, check out the game Maradi. I'll have a link down in the description that'll take you directly over there. We do a weekly podcast most of the time. It's usually bi-weekly, but we try weekly. And we just BS about Kickstarter games, and that's basically all it is. We each choose one game, and we talk about why we think it's cool, and then we argue with each other, and that's basically what happens. So starting this off, we're going to go into Entropia. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but the theme of this feels similar to a game I have up there called Eons. This one, you're a star in an early galaxy, and you're trying to be the first one to have, I think it was either 4 or 5 planets orbiting your star. However, you all are different stars, I guess, trying to send asteroids or whatever, screwing each other over, and you want to be the first person to actually have that. I love the theme. Anything space-related, I absolutely love. The concept and artwork are really nice, and for some reason, just what I'm seeing of it reminds me of Eons, which I'm a huge fan. Next up is Folklore The Affliction. Now, this one looks like basically a game of D&D in a box, similar to something like maybe Gloomhaven, where you have tons of standees and this big world map and these dungeons that you can put together with where the Cool Mini or Not style, like Arcadia Quest squares that you put together and they form this dungeon. And all of that looks really interesting, but the fact that the game comes with just a ton of standees, which normally I'm a huge fan of minis, but with my wall of minis that, I don't know why I pointed behind me, not everything has minis, but I have a lot of games behind me that I want to paint, but I'm never going to get around to, and it bothers me that they're not painted. So the fact that this comes with standees and not minis is actually a turn on for me. But you can also upgrade the base game to have minis for what looks like everything in the game. So that is pretty cool, and I'm a big role-playing fan, so the fact that it's basically an RPG in a box, that you can go through this campaign, and it seems like it may be a little bit fairly replayable, which is pretty cool as well. But overall, definitely the whole thing screams, quality. The artwork is really, really nice, and you get a lot of stuff in the box as well. Next up is Monster Slaughter. Now, this one, I really like the theme of this because it's a bunch of, teenagers, college frat boys, whatever, or frat kids in a house in the middle of the woods, and they get attacked by monsters, and, it's your every cliche, style horror movie. However, this one, you are the monsters trying to rickety-wreck these kids and kill them. And I thought that was really cool. I like where they twist that, and now you are the bad guy trying to do bad guy things, which is pretty cool. And you could be golems, zombies, vampires, werewolves, and something called the Slaughtered, which is really neat. And then there's also more, and the Slaughtered kind of look like Freddy Krueger-esque. Like filleted muscle tissue and all that stuff. It looks neat. But there's also going to be, looks like more monsters, monster families are going to be unlocked. And when you're playing as a monster family. You have a dad, a mom, and a child of your monster, which I thought was pretty funny. And I know I saw one of the unlocks are like aliens, which are cool. And they're like the Mars Attacks aliens with the green heads and the helmet. And overall, I mean, it seems really cool. And it looks like you use the actual game box as part of the board. So you have the mansion with rooms, so the box is the mansion. So I'm not really sure if that's just going to end up being a gimmick or what, but overall it looked like it's going to be a good, fun little game. Next one I want to talk about is War Room. Now, I'm a big fan of World War II themed games, though I'm also very picky with what I like. For example, I did not like Memoir 44, which is apparently some really good game. I hated it. I thought, Battle Lore back here did the job better. But that's neither here nor there. I have Tide of Iron up here, which is just outside of screen, and I love that one. So I'm a big fan of those, global scale war games, which those were bad examples, but you get the idea. I like World War II theme games. And this one is by the same guy who created Axis and Allies. And it's one of the games I've almost bought numerous times that I never wound up pulling the trigger on it. And this one, it's got a really cool board. The board is just a big round board, which I don't know how that's going to fit in the box, but that's future them's problem. But it's a top down of the globe, so you have that way, rather than it being like the ocean split on this side, and you have half of the U.S. on the left side, and then the other half of the U.S. on this side, and Europe in the middle of the board. Now it's the globe, and the whole thing is round, so you get to have all of the different oceans. There's no break in anything. You have all of, and I thought that was really interesting. Now, of course, below, I think it's Australia, isn't actually represented, but, you can't have your cake and eat it too. I just thought it was a really interesting concept. And then on top of the fact that the board is reasonably clean in comparison to, what's going on. So rather than having tons of pieces all over the place like you would in a game of Axis and Allies, you have the pieces all stack on top of each other. So when you're moving your pieces, you only really have at most 3. You have ground units that are all stacked on top of each other. So like red is always, I think it's artillery, green is always tanks, yellow is always infantry. And then I think there's another one. And then the same thing with the ocean units. Blue is always a sub. This is always a this. So at most you're moving 3 things when you move a unit. And then it's got simultaneous movement. So I guess everybody writes down what's going where on these pads. And then you all execute them all at the same time. So you have to predict where your opponent's going. Where are they going to be? Are they still going to be there? Should I attack? And I love games that do stuff like that. And it just looks like it's going to be chaotic and fun and strategic and lots and lots of fun. Next up, I want to talk about Demons: The Ninth Circle of Hell. Now, this one is a role-playing, kingdom-building card game that uses dice. So I know that's kind of a lot of things crammed into one, but it can be played as a co-op or a semi-co-op game, which I thought was pretty interesting. And you all are trying to beat back these monsters so you can build your kingdom. When you beat these monsters, you get these demon stones that you then, I guess, use to help build up your kingdom. So I thought all of that sounded really neat. But I also should be getting a review copy of this. I don't know if it's going to be before the Kickstarter or maybe after. Not 100% sure. I did talk with the developer a little bit though. So if that happens, awesome. Be on the lookout for that. But the artwork looks really interesting, pretty evocative. And I like the idea of a kingdom building card game. Hopefully it's not, this big sprawling mess, but it does look really interesting. Next up is Laruna Age of Kingdoms. Now this one's a worker placement area control game where you all have heroes and you're summoning troops and stuff moving around a board trying to beat the snot out of each other, essentially. But this one can be won via conquest, via trade, and it looks like something similar to technology, where you're just making your actions better, earning favor points, I guess, with your people, and after a certain amount of turns, whoever has, I guess, the most favor wins, is for what I can tell. And I thought that looked neat. But on top of all of that, you also have your empire management that you have to deal with. So your people start getting fatigued if you keep placing out these same workers and not letting them rest. They start getting angry that they don't get to rest, and so but those turns you don't use them. There's less actions you get to take. So your opponents, if they aren't doing that, then they're getting to do more, and it looks like it's just got a lot of things that you got to deal with, all while trying to accomplish your goal, which is always great. Next up is Notice Me Senpai. Now this game looks very similar to a game I reviewed not long ago called Cult Following, which is a very fast and light little drinking game is what I like to relate it to. It's similar, in a similar vein to something like Cards Against Humanity, where you are blatantly pandering to the judge, and it's a good game to have a few drinks or play with, lots of people who love to laugh and make fun of each other and tell stories, and that's really what this game is. But it's got a traditional anime trope, I hope Senpai will notice me kind of thing with it. And anybody who likes those style games and likes, that trope, this is definitely going to be a shoe-in for anybody. And maybe one day, Senpai will notice you. Next up is Lockwoods Asylum. Now, this one is a survival horror deck builder that, first and foremost, has incredible artwork. That was the first thing that really popped for me. But this one it's a direct confrontational style game, where I guess you all are different patients in like a psych ward, and you're battling against real threats and threats in your mind. And the way that's incorporated is, not only in standard deck builder fashion can I buy this card and add it to my deck to make my deck better, but I can also buy this card that's maybe a bad guy and I put it into your deck. So this machine, essentially, because let's face it, a deck builder is basically an engine builder. You're trying to get it efficient. So I'm ruining that by A, putting a card in there that you did not account for, but then B, that monster attacks you from your deck when you draw it. And I thought that was so cool. Because this thing that you're building, this thing that you put all your time and energy into, is also going to be hurting you. And I thought that was neat. And then again, it's directly confrontational, which I'm a big fan of, because lots of deck builders are prone to a solitary game, essentially, a multiplayer solitaire game. So definitely check this one. Next up on my list is Stumped. Now, Stumped, it claims to be a highly interactive deck building game where you also get to build a tree, which I thought looked really weird. But it has a really cool, the tree building mechanic I thought was really interesting. And the way it seems to work is when you can play certain cards, I guess, that you can play allows you to screw with each other's tree. And whoever gets, I think it was 13 leaves or something on their tree, is declared the winner. So one of the cards that it shows one of them do is they place it down, and then the person gets to flick one spot of their tree. And by doing that, 4 of their branches go flying and a bunch of leaves, and now they have to build back up. And it looks like it's going to be one of those types of games that is just hilarious fun around the table. And lastly this week is Envy, which I actually happen to have right here. Now, Envy is a very fast-paced penis building game where your inner 12-year-old that loves dick and fart jokes gets to come out and play. The review for this should actually be out hopefully within the next few days. I should have had it up a little earlier than this, but I've had a lot going on. But it's got a lot of penis facts on it. And it's also got a really cool, you can flip through here, and the penis dances at the bottom of all the cards. So that alone is a win. But the game itself is very fast, very fun, very light. It's a good filler game as an actual game, and it's got a lot of penis facts on it, which some are really interesting, some are hysterical because it has jokes and stuff on it. And then not many games allow your girlfriend and or wife to be able to jump up and say that her penis is much larger than yours. Unless you're one of those people, then, whatever, I guess it happens sometimes. And those are my 10 games for this week. It's not often that I actually get all 10 games in. Usually it's less. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you liked any of these, or any of them sounded interesting, check down in the description. It'll take you directly to the Kickstarter pages, and maybe you'll consider backing one of them. Now, my award for Kickstarter of the week, I'm really torn whether or not I want Lockwoods Asylum or whether I want War Room, because both of those look super awesome. But I think I'm going to have to give it to the Lockwoods Asylum. Lockwoods Asylum looks outstanding. The artwork in it's great. I love deck builders, and the fact that I am directly screwing over your engine that's beating me, that alone is just a win for me. It looks super interesting. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're new here, consider sticking around. Hit that bell or whatever it is nowadays. Subscribe button down there. I don't know where it is, somewhere in this general area. Click on that, stick around. If you like this show, you like this channel, you like what I'm doing here, any support would definitely help. I will have a Patreon up here and down in the description, take you directly over to my Patreon. Even $1 helps, and I would definitely appreciate it. If you don't want to commit to anything, I have a tip jar down in the description as well. Anything is welcome, anything is appreciated. If not, just sit back, enjoy the show. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time in the quarantine.